Welcome to News Brief.
Today is Wednesday, July 2, 2025.
Well, we start in Washington. Negotiations are continuing, right? In the House of Representatives for this tax bill promoted by Trump.
That's right. Yesterday, it barely passed the Senate. It needed a tie-breaking vote.
Just barely. Wow.
Yes. And now in the House, things are, well, it's complicated. There's obvious Democratic resistance, but also, from some Republicans too.
And why? What are the key points? What's the holdup?
Mainly two things. The projected increase in the deficit, which would be about $3 trillion, an enormous figure, and then very significant cuts to Medicaid.
Right, which could affect a lot of people, potentially.
Millions, yes, but Trump insists that it has to pass before July 4th. He speaks of an economic renaissance, he says.
Right, on July 4th. And speaking of that, a record number of travelers is expected this week, right? For the holiday.
It's crazy. 72 million people traveling, the vast majority, 62 million by road.
That's a lot of people on the roads.
But the weather isn't cooperating. Not at all.
Oh, what's happening there?
Look, the East Coast is experiencing very strong storms, rain, up to floods in some places. There are delays, flight cancellations at major airports.
Ugh, how complicated to travel like that. Really tough.
And then in the West, it's a whole different picture, but not good either. Las Vegas with dust storms, Arizona with extreme, truly oppressive heat.
And on top of that, I read something about the beaches. Yes. In Massachusetts, at least 19 beaches have been closed.
That's right, and there are alerts in other states as well due to high levels of bacteria in the water. Nothing ideal for the holiday, really.
Okay, changing the subject, but staying in the United States, immigration. A fairly large deportation operation began this week.
A mega operation, yes, with massive raids, mainly in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York.
And this logically generated protests, I assume.
Right, immediately. In Los Angeles, for example, the Board of Supervisors is debating how to protect civil rights because, well, detentions by ICE have increased a lot recently.
Was there any particular incident that sparked that?
Well, yeah, note that the Los Angeles police chief ordered verifying the identity of agents making arrests. This came after there were reports of agents acting without clear identification.
What a delicate issue. And there's a specific case that's getting a lot of attention, isn't there?
Luis Alvarez's case, right? The Hispanic man who rescued a girl from a shark in Florida.
That's him? Incredible story, right? He was arrested days after the rescue for just a simple traffic violation.
And now he faces possible deportation. It's a story that generated a lot of outrage, truly. A lot of people talking about it.
Okay, let's leave the United States. Let's go to the international arena. The tension between Iran and Israel seems to have escalated to another level, really.
Yes. Unfortunately, it seems to have escalated to open war. This after several recent military operations, like Israel's Operation Rising Lion back in June. A regional escalation is, well, it's very concerning, right?
And the impact on oil prices.
Of course. Exactly. There's a lot of concern about a broader conflagration and, as you say, about what could happen to crude oil prices. Very volatile.
In this context, Trump said that Israel accepted a ceasefire proposal and that he hopes Hamas will too.
Yes, he said it. But beware, we must be cautious here. There is still no official confirmation from either party, so we really have to wait and see how that plays out.
Understood. And Ukraine, any news from there?
In Ukraine, the situation continues to be a very harsh war of attrition. What has been confirmed is that the United States suspended the shipment of certain types of weaponry to Kyiv.
Ah, look. And is it known why? Any reason given?
It seems they are in the midst of a review of their foreign policy. And, well, perhaps there are also pressures over resources, right?
Right.
Resources that are needed or being allocated to other conflicts, like this one in the Middle East.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, let's return to the region, to Mexico. There's controversy over a new security law there.
Yes, a law that allows the government to know the geolocation of citizens without a judicial order.
Ugh, that sounds complicated. Potentially invasive.
Very. The opposition has already cried foul. They speak of the creation of a spy state. They say it violates privacy. Fundamentally.
And what does the government say in response?
President Claudia Sheinbaum defends it. She argues that it is a necessary measure to combat insecurity, which is very high, and she strongly denies that citizens will be spied on. But, well, the debate is definitely underway.
Okay, let's move to sports. The FIFA Club World Cup in the United States. We already have the quarterfinals set.
Yes, there were some important matches yesterday. Real Madrid beat Juventus 1-0.
Close game.
Yeah, tight one. And Borussia Dortmund beat Real de Monterrey 2-1.
Good. Any surprises? Big result?
The big surprise, yeah. The defending champion, Manchester City, is out
Seriously? Against whom?
against Al Hilal from Saudi Arabia. They lost 4-3. A huge upset, really.
Wow. Didn't see that coming. And how did the quarterfinal matchups end up then?
There are some very interesting matches coming up. Palmeiras against Chelsea, PSG against Bayern Munich. Yeah, the tournament is getting good, really heating up.
And the Women's Euro Cup also started, right?
Exactly, in Switzerland. Yesterday was the opening match of Group A. Iceland beat Finland 1-0. So the tournament has officially started.
Good for women's soccer. Great to see. Changing the subject completely, a piece of news from the religious and cultural sphere, the Dalai Lama.
Yes, important news there. He confirmed that he will have a successor.
Oh, look, because there were doubts about that, right? Speculation.
There were many speculations about whether it would be the end of the, 600-year-old institution. But, well, he dispelled those doubts, saying there will be continuity.
And what did China say? They're always attentive to this.
They reacted very quickly, as you'd expect. They affirmed that the successor must be approved by their government. That's their usual stance. Pretty consistent.
Understood. And finally, some entertainment news that ended up in court. The case of rapper Derek Sandy Holmes.
Yes, there was a verdict. He was found guilty of conspiracy to commit racketeering
Okay.
and also 2 counts of transportation for prostitution.
But weren't there more serious charges initially? I seem to remember.
Yes, there were sexual trafficking charges, but he was found not guilty of those particular charges.
So he avoided life imprisonment then?
Exactly. He avoided the maximum penalty. There were very intense reactions in court, apparently. Crying, applause, a little bit of everything,
I imagine. High emotions. And to close, one for moviegoers. There's a premiere today, right?
Yes, today Jurassic World Rebirth arrives in cinemas, the new installment of the dinosaur saga for all the fans out there.
Until next time.